Welcome to the Leading Hope Podcast with Kevin Jack. Your influence will lead people somewhere, lead them towards hope. Everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.
Welcome to Leading Hope with Kevin Jack. I'm your host, BJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining and taking time out of your day to become a better leader. We release a new episode every Wednesday, so we'd love for you to share on social media and bring others along with us on this journey of becoming a better leader. Visit leadinghope.online to get updates and find out more about the Leading Hope community. If you're new to the podcast and haven't yet subscribed, it would mean the world to us if you did that now. Also, post about it, rate, and review. You will not believe how that helps get this podcast in the hands of so many more leaders like you. Today is a little different, Kevin. We've got bunch of people from our team. We're so excited to be joined by all these great staff people and team people and hope people. And this is episode 41. It's our new trust series. You have entitled this Trust in Progress. And so,
Trust in Progress.
With all these smiling, fun faces, let's get started.
Hey, so if you're watching on YouTube, this will be obvious to you. If you're just listening to the audio, you won't see this. We are joining via Zoom, which is where we have spent way too much of our time over the past several months. I'm a meeting person. I like meetings, but this whole hey, let's have a Zoom meeting is no, please, could I not? But we're here anyway, and we're excited about it. And I am joined by our staff, some of the members of our staff. The people who are joining me today are the people who serve as influencers in our organization, which are people who are responsible for areas of ministry across different campuses to help create cohesion and health within all those. And everyone who is here with us today, we have been together for over 3.5 years, which I don't know about business world, but in church world, that is an eternity. We are an old couple family, however you want to describe that. So I want to introduce you to everyone first. So I am joined by Dusty Stirk, who is our worship leader at our Beaver Creek campus and is responsible for worship and services across all campuses. Dusty, you want to say hi to everyone so they recognize your voice?
Yeah, how you doing? Good to be here.
Good. And Dusty is by far wearing the best shirt of anyone today. If you are listening on audio, you need to go to YouTube just to see Dusty's shirt. Also is Alyssa Evans, who is over next steps at all of our campuses and our Immigration Center co-director.
Hello, everybody.
There you go. And Keisha Plaskett, who is over Next Gen Ministry and also serves as our Alpha Campus pastor. Keisha, you want to say hi?
Hey guys, good to be here.
And Heather Rogers, who is over First Impressions, everything that happens on a weekend, parking lot, greeters, coffee, all that other stuff in the worship center. Heather, you want to say hi?
Hey guys.
So that's for the majority of the rest of the time, that is who you are going to be hearing from. So I have a couple questions I'm going to ask them as we have navigated through the process of trust within our church and our team and our culture. But I want to explain for just a second why we're doing this and we're pulling some other people in. For one, I want you to learn from our successes and struggles. I want you to learn what went well and some of the missteps that we've had in the process of developing trust. I also want you to see that not everyone responds to the work of trust the same. And I don't mean that good or bad, just to acknowledge that everyone's going to process it differently. So I don't know how many of you do the Enneagram. We are all across the board within this group. And so we've responded to those different pieces in different ways based upon our personalities. And the last thing I really want you to see is I want you to see that the work of developing trust is not a single meeting, which is the greatest error that we've seen people make, is to go, okay, now we're going to work on trust. We're going to work on trust from 1 to 3 on Thursday. We did it. We're done. Let's move on. That this is the ongoing conversation that we consistently have. And so they're going to join us for these 3 episodes, for this one and the following 2, to help you get a full understanding. And my greatest desire in this is that whatever you lead, is that you would make a commitment to work for the trust of your team. I believe one of the statements just kind of held to is the team will never be healthier than the senior leader wants it to be. And so whatever you lead, I want you to be committed to that, and to also see that it is way easier when your entire team is committed to that. So let's jump into the conversation. So first off, and I think Heather's going to kick us off on this, to give people a picture of the benefit of trust. Heather, would you describe the dynamics of our team before we entered into all this trust work, and now on the other side of at least all the initial work, while this is an ongoing thing? What is the difference between before we worked on trust and on the other side of the initial work?
It's a big difference. Before we started working on trust, I don't think we even realized we had an issue with trust. But now that we've done the work, I can see that we were cynical. It was easy to nitpick and pick people apart, and very siloed. I think a lot of us were focused on our tasks we had to get done and almost competing with other people to get the attention of our bosses, like working against each other. I think the biggest difference after working through all of those exercises to learn to trust each other is that now we're all working towards the same goal. I don't question when someone leaves the office early what they're doing and why. I know that we're all headed in the same direction, and that makes a huge difference to the feeling and the atmosphere in the office.
That's awesome. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
I think what she said, when we were competing with one another, that's really changed, because when you have trust as a team, you're each other's biggest cheerleaders, and you take the victory of your coworkers and it becomes your victory too. And it's less of like, how do I point out all the good things I'm doing, but how do I celebrate someone who works alongside of me, and then do that really well? Because the cool part is, and then they do that to you when it's your turn. And it's changed our whole team.
Cool. Hey, let me ask it like this. So we talk about like the positive side. What don't you experience anymore? And this is for anyone to answer, but what isn't a common thing that we don't have to deal with anymore now that we're on at least the other side of the initial work? Anyone want to jump in on that?
I think Heather said it right when she said, we don't compete with one another's ministries anymore. I think that was a big thing that we don't experience. At least I don't see a whole lot anymore. It's not like, hey, if I make my ministry silo really shiny and nice, then, we've got to be the best team within the team, or else we don't have value within the team. And now the attitude is more like, hey, what is our entire team doing? Like, what is Be Hope Church doing? And anything we do well in anybody's ministry, we can celebrate that success together, because we know we are doing it all for the same reason. We're all pursuing the same goal, and that's been really important.
That's good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, go ahead.
Sorry. I think we also just don't tiptoe around things anymore. Like conversations and conflict used to take us we didn't even have conflict half the time. But if we did, it took us so long because people were just trying to tiptoe around things and not really saying what needed to be said. And now, those conversations and that conflict happen so quickly because it's like, hey, we don't have time to mess around with this. We just get it out and we work through it really quickly. And we save so much time doing it that way.
That's a great point.
We interrupt each other. We yell at each other.
All the time.
All day long. I think
Keisha, for the longest time, had the hardest time, and then we just jump in.
No, you're good.
I would call it that we fight, and Keisha had the hardest time accepting the phrase "we fight." Keisha, where are you at on that now?
It still makes me really, really anxious, but I understand the point, because I always thought there was like a winner and a loser when people fight. Like, oh, it's so easy to be, I don't want to be the loser, but now it's like, well, if we fight, we'll get it over with and we can move on to the next thing. So I'm okay with it.
V, what'd you have?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, at least for me, I think at when we had those places of conflict, like Alyssa said, or not any, that we, at least for me, I took it almost as a personal attack. And now I use it as I know everyone's heart is for a purpose statement. I mean, they're doing it for a purpose together, as Dusty said, at Be Hope Church. So it's not something that I did. It's something that we are doing.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. All right.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think that's really true, that we have learned to disconnect criticism or feedback or any of that from like personal attack. And I think that that is really huge. You know, we recognize, like Dusty said, that we're all headed in the same direction. And so this is to make me better. And I think that that's a huge thing. Like, we disconnected the personal impact from it. We each still take responsibility for it, but I'm not personally offended if you say like, hey, this is the problem that I saw with this. This is how we could potentially make it better.
Good. Hey,
Awesome.
Let's jump into, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but to give people just a picture of some of the work. And I know we have stories that we could tell for hours on the process of it, but just a couple quick things. And Dusty, if you'll start off, what were some key moments or exercises or meetings when it came to us developing trust for people to get a picture of what that looks like?
Oh, yeah. For us, it was pretty much the one that comes to everybody's mind. We will now call the Fateful Meeting from here on out. What we did early on, while we were still trying to get to know each other, and we're taking all these personality profiles and figuring out, all right, number one, we need to figure out who we are to ourselves and who we are to everybody else. We put everybody in a big circle, and after everybody did their personality profiles with that magical thing called the Enneagram, we circled up and we said, okay, we're going to go around the room, and everybody is going to contribute to this conversation. You can't get left out. The first thing we're going to do is tell this person, hey, what's something that you bring to the team that's valuable? And what's something that you bring to the team that really needs worked on, or something that has a negative effect on our team? So we kind of quickly said, okay, what do we like about this person? What do we not like about this person? Which wasn't the point. The point was, we were really trying to get an accurate way of the energy, understand the energy we brought to the team. So like, I have feelings about myself, but I'm not always the most accurate person to judge how I operate within a team and how other people see me. So what I see in my head is, okay, I act this way. This is how people view me. Sometimes it's completely not accurate because we're not always the best at self-reflecting, right? So for us, that was super enlightening because, not only did we see, hey, here's something that I project onto the team that really is not healthy and that I don't want to continue, but also it allowed us to really see what our value was in the team. And, we didn't have a chance to really talk about that before.
That's good. Anything else come to mind that you guys want to call out? Is if our listeners don't look at that and go, that sounds horrendous. So if you're not too scared, anything else anybody wants to jump in on, or is it just the one?
It was horrendous. It was terrible. But I think that if we didn't start there, learning about ourselves and how we affect the team dynamic and other people, we couldn't get any better. It starts with each of us. And that terrible, fateful meeting was the catalyst to my own personal growth. Once I found out how I was impacting the feel of our team, I had to change that. So I started reading everything I could and listening to podcasts and trying to become a better team player. I don't want the things with my personality that bring the team down. I don't want that to happen. I want it to be better. So I think that was huge. And we probably wouldn't be where we are if we hadn't started in that horrendous place.
That's good.
Yeah, I think two of the other things that we did really intentionally, one, just from a whole staff perspective, was changing the way that we did seasonal reviews. I mean, every company, every organization has some sort of review process, right? Ours, prior to going through this process, was basically, well, there's like an online portal that you can log into. To be honest, I had forgotten my login, and I'm still not sure that account ever got shut down. But we went through a process. We meet on a really regular quarterly basis, and it's a very structured review process, which I appreciate for my personality type. But really, what it did was connect you to the people who are directly supervising you, but in a way that was like a very, the whole purpose of it is just to open conversation. And so we check in every single week on projects and tasks and things, but we really set in this rhythm of, hey, we're going to check in on you personally. And that built so much trust between me and the people who were, leading me, between me and the people that I lead, because I've gotten to lead that process with some people, and really just reiterated like, hey, we're here for you personally. We don't just care about what you produce. And we did that then as a whole staff in building in some of these like really intentional fun activities. We would do, for a while there, we were doing like a once a month cookout when it was warm, or take some time to just have lunch together, and that was really important, just to be able to come together outside of like, hey, we all work together, and so it is really important that we get these tasks checked off the list. But it's also really important that we can laugh together, and that we can have fun together, and that we can care about one another in a really personal way. And I think that just sped up the process of trusting one another.
So as you're listening into this, one of the things I want you to hear from all the things that have been said so far is, because we always joke like hey, so develop trust. Let's go to a ropes course. Develop trust. Let's have a this day. And we haven't gone to a ropes course yet, but there have been things like that. And the thing I want you to hear that's coming through is just this valuing of the relationship. And to say, like, as we have conflict, we value the relationship, not just the output. That's why we can have conflict, because we know that we value the relationship. That is why we have fun. That is why, as part of reviews, it is largely about how the person's doing individually. And it's easy to think that trust is an activity, and trust first is a value, and then the activities come through that. But we'll all respond to it differently. So Keisha, I want you to kick off this one. As we went through some of those, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? Take us into your thoughts. We will all respond to the conflict that creates trust differently. How did you respond? And then I'd love for everyone to jump in real quickly on this one and how you responded to it. But Keisha, go ahead.
Sure. Well, I'm not necessarily a feeler, but I'm a thinker. And so I'm that person that will have a conversation and then stay up for the whole night replaying what I should have said. And so those meetings, well, that horrendous meeting, the fateful meeting, whatever we're calling it, where we did the trust circle and said what we liked and didn't like about each other, it made me feel really vulnerable. Not only because I was sharing things about my teammates that maybe they, like the negative impacts that they were having on our team, but also I was hearing that about myself. And that's hard to hear sometimes, because I never think that I'm part of the problem. Like I have growth to do. And so I felt really vulnerable. The other interesting part that us being a church is we have, when a new pastor comes, we have like 3 months, and then you can essentially fire us. And so there's always this part of like, oh, if I say something or critique someone and it's not likable, Kevin's going to fire me and this is my job. And it's just this awkward thing. But when we put in the hard work, it was worth it. But vulnerable is probably the thinking, the feeling that I had the most was like, ooh, I'm really open and this seems unnatural, and painful a bit. Like, I don't think I loved hearing those things, but it also, once I could process it, inspired me to want to work on my own, my own self and how I could be a better team player, but also a better leader for the organization.
That's good.
That's good. Kevin, we got time for one more question here. We're winding down our 20-minute time allotment. So
okay. Well, guys, don't worry. If you go, no, I want more. There's 2 more episodes in this series. And just so you know, I wasn't going to reconvene our team and waste our time on 3 different occasions. And so when you come back to the next episode, if you're on YouTube, we're all going to be wearing the same shirts.
I brought an extra shirt.
Just assume. These are the only clothes we wear. You can take that,
That's
or we record them all at once.
Hey,
so
if it doesn't say hope, we throw it away.
Last question I'll ask then. Lisa, for you, how would you describe the process to someone else of developing trust within our team?
Yeah, I think initially it was very messy and it was very slow. It was painful, but you said at the beginning, like it's been ongoing. And so the more that we've worked on trust, the more that we've worked on building this and all of those areas that you mentioned last week, I think it's gotten so much easier and so much quicker. I would say if you're going to engage this with your team, it's going to take a level of commitment. There's going to be a lot of defensiveness that you have to work through first. But I think you just have to go into it with that expectation. I don't think we went into it with that expectation at first, but once we worked through some of that, I think it made us all that much more open to it. And as new people have come in and we've had the chance to help them step into this, I think we as a team have become that much more supportive of bringing other people through that and supportive of one another.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. Anybody want to contribute to that? Good to go?
That was awesome.
It was awesome.
I agree.
Well, cool. Hey, let's wrap up episode 41, Trust in Progress. Kevin, is there some final thought you'd like to leave?
Yeah, I want you to walk away with this, and whatever you lead, be it organization, be it a team, be it a church, be it your family, I want you to see that, man, developing trust is hard, but it's worth it. It makes the work that you do more joyful. It makes the work that you do more efficient. And there's parts of it that are really messy and really difficult, but we're all better on the other side when you make a commitment towards developing trust. So make that commitment today.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us today, episode 41. If you are new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, it'd mean the world to us if you did that now. Also, post about it, rate and review, or both. You won't believe how that helps us get this podcast in the hands of so many more leaders like you. Want to thank Dusty and Alyssa and Keisha and Heather for joining us today. And like Kevin said, we will be back next week, all ready to go again. So make sure you join us for that. And remember, we love hearing your stories, how the podcast is working in your life and business. If you have a story, visit leadinghope.online and send that to us. We would love to hear for you anytime. And remember, everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.